Please just take care after my mother and look after her.
Excuse me?
Don't let me repeat the same thing over and over again. Take care of my mother.
Wait, now hold on a minute. I do have a job, you know.
Then just quit your job and focus on taking care of my mother.
What the hell are you saying? You're being ridiculous, Oliver. There's no way that I'm quitting my job.
Stop being so selfish, Phoebe.
Come on, calm down and be logical for a moment here. My name is Phoebe. I am 30 years old and I work as a nurse. It has been 4 years since I got married to my husband, Oliver. We had no kids yet, and we were both working and living happily together. Then, my husband suddenly said something unexpected, all of a sudden.
I'm going to make my own company.
What?
I'm going to be independent and make my own company.
My husband's sudden declaration of making his own company was something really unexpected. My husband used to work for a major company. He had a stable income, and because of that, I thought we wouldn't have to really worry about having a baby or owning a house. But, are you really sure about this? Didn't you just think of this idea and aren't you just hastily starting it? My husband looked a little annoyed when I said that.
Oh, come on. It's fine. This is something I've been thinking about for 2-3 years now anyways. Since you're a nurse, Phoebe, you may not know much about it, but starting a business is actually not that difficult, you know. If you have a great idea and the right connections with the right people, you can get by so easily.
I was annoyed that Oliver made it sound like I was too naive, but I thought if he was being that confident, then I might as well let him try. My husband is now 31 years old, so if he were to make any mistakes, maybe right now is probably better to make the mistakes than making them later on. Well, even if he fails with his company and business, with his education background and work experience, it should not be that difficult for him to find another job. All right then. Go ahead and do whatever you want.
Yes! Thank you!
So, like that, my husband resigned from the company he was working at and started his own company. Of course, it's obvious that at first there was no profit and no income. Oliver had been doing sales work for his business even before he left the company. But when he finally launched his company, it was difficult to find people who would cooperate with him. Well, since Oliver didn't tell me much about the details of his work, I only know this much. But I felt bad if I said anything that would discourage him, who was trying his best. So, I decided to just keep an eye on him for the time being. In the beginning, my husband received re-employment benefits from the government. So, there was no problem even though he had no income from his company. But after the benefits ran out, he had to rely solely on my income. In the end, my husband ran his company for about 1.5 years. But unfortunately, it did not make a profit and has been in the red, so his company went out of business. They say that perseverance prevails, so I thought that maybe Oliver shouldn't have given up and should have tried a little harder. But my husband himself had already lost all confidence and the will to work hard for it. Now that my husband knows how hard it is to start a business, he will quietly go back to being an employee in a company. So, I wouldn't really blame my husband, because I was grateful for that, as he got to experience something really important, as well as a life lesson for him. But this was where the issue arose. my husband could not find a new job at all. I regretted that I had been too optimistic and didn't think deep enough about Oliver's chances of finding a new job. I had thought that with my husband's background, not a major one, but at least a regular company would hire him. In the end, my husband was able to find a new job at a company that paid less than half of what he was earning when he was working for that major company. But we have to accept our current situation and just try our best and work hard with what we have. I decided that I would have to rethink about our lifestyles a bit from now on. I knew that if we continued to live the way we had been living, we would not be able to save much money. But my husband was considerably more positive than I was, and he was not willing to lower our standard of living. So I told him to think about saving money. But he would say,
"Oh, come on. I'm stressed out from work, so let me spend a little more freely."
Since then, we began to grow apart bit by bit. And because of that, our marriage has deteriorated a bit. I wanted to improve things between us somehow, but we couldn't really make up. In the midst of all this, one day, my husband received a call that his mother, Lily, had fallen down the stairs and injured herself. Since my husband told me that it is difficult for Lily to lead a normal life now, I called her during the break at work. "Hello, Lily. I heard from Oliver that you were injured. Are you okay?" "What the hell? You think you can get away with just a phone call?" "Excuse me? If you're really worried, it's common sense to come visit me and show your face." Well, I called her because I was worried about her, but to hear her say something like this is just a bit too much. I personally thought that I was getting along reasonably well with Lily. So, I was a little surprised that she had that irritated attitude with me. My husband had already heard about the call from Lily, so he also got angry at me.
"You know, it's common sense to go visit a person at the hospital rather than calling that person. Don't you think? You really don't have any common sense even though you're an adult."
"Well, but I was at work and I thought it would be better to call first."
"Stop giving me any stupid excuses. Giving excuses won't work if you work in a company, you know?"
What on earth does my husband think I am doing as a nurse? Even nurses have to communicate with doctors, supervisors, and junior staffs in the hospital. I don't think that's any different from a regular company. But arguing with my husband at times like this only makes the argument even more worse. So, to what he said, I told him, "I'll go tomorrow," and ended the conversation. Then, the next day, I went over to visit Lily, where a helper was there, busily taking care of her. Since her husband had already passed away and Lily lives alone at their house, it was only natural that she had already hired a helper. "Oh, so you hired a helper, huh, Lily? What are you doing here?" "Excuse me? You'll be in the helper's way. So just hurry up and go home." "Well, you were the one who told me that I was supposed to come visit you instead of calling you, so that's why I came." "Shut up! If you already called, then you didn't have to come over. I mean, you already just called me instead of visiting me right away, so that already tells me that you had no intention of visiting me in the first place." Since Lily said that really angrily to me, I had no choice but to go home. I had taken the trouble to come all the way to Lily's on my day off. After returning home, I told my husband about it, and he said,
"Well, it can't be helped."
"Huh? What do you mean?"
"It means that if you make a mistake like that even once, it's hard to be forgiven. You're an adult, so you have to get that part right. You have to have a little more common sense, Phoebe."
My husband has been really naggy at me lately. I mean, I'm a decent adult, and if anything, I make more money than Oliver does. But if I said this, it would be the end of our relationship in an instant. So I try so hard not to say it. My husband is probably just a bit meaner and being negative because he failed with his business. And Lily was probably just really frustrated because now she can't really move freely on her own. That's what I decided to think. After that, I tried to compromise, but my relationship with my husband remained the same. My husband and I got together through a matchmaking app, and although he was not that handsome, his facial expressions and his facial features and overall is what I preferred to look in for a man. And at the time, he was working for a major company, so I thought he was a pretty good match for me. We were happily married until my husband decided to make his own company. So I didn't really want to divorce him easily like that. I hoped that Oliver and I would be able to make up with each other again. Then, during all that, my husband suddenly said that he wanted to talk to me. Could it be about our current situation? I sat down across my husband with that thought in mind. Then, my husband says something completely different.
Please, just take care after my mother and look after her.
Excuse me?
Don't let me repeat the same thing over and over again. Take care of my mother.
Wait, now hold on a minute. I do have a job, you know.
Then just quit your job and focus on taking care of my mother.
What the hell are you saying? You're being ridiculous, Oliver. There's no way that I'm quitting my job.
Stop being so selfish, Phoebe.
Come on, calm down and be logical for a moment here. In any case, Lily did hire a helper, didn't she?
We're going to stop hiring the helper because it costs a lot of money. We have to leave some money for my mother in the future when she gets really old, you know.
So that's why you want me to quit my job and take care of her?
Yeah, that's right.
Look, I hate to say this too, but are you even thinking about how we'll live? If I quit my job, we won't even have that much income. You do know that, right? So, if I think about that, quitting my job is not possible, since we will go broke as a family.
Oh, so that's how you've been looking down on me, huh?
No, that's not what I said. I'm only saying that we should think about this more carefully and calmly.
That's enough. I know exactly what you think now.
And with that, my husband went into his room. The next day, as soon as Oliver came home from work, he suddenly stood in front of me. What is it?
I brought this.
He held out the signed divorce papers right in front of me. Huh? Divorce?
Because you just disrespect me. And you don't even care about my mother. And you're a totally useless wife.
Huh?
If you were a good wife, you would actually quit your job for your husband and take the initiative to take care of your husband's mother, right? That's just common sense. You better cool down a bit and think about what your priorities should be. Well then, I'm heading over to my mother's house.
With that, my husband left and went over to Lily's place. I felt as if something inside me snapped when my husband threatened me with the divorce papers as he said those horrible things to me. A wife is supposed to take care of her mother-in-law? That's bullshit. Usually, your own children should be the ones doing that. I mean, Oliver's always telling me it's common sense, but he's the one with the least common sense. I was getting angrier and angrier, and I ended up signing my part onto the divorce papers. Then, I immediately headed over to file the divorce papers. Afterwards, I packed up my belongings and went back to my parents' house. My parents were surprised that I had went over so suddenly, but they were outraged when they heard what I had to say. I then decided to relax a bit at my parents' house and start looking for a room. Up until now, I had been living near my husband's workplace, which meant that it was a bit far from where I work. But living alone would allow me to live near the hospital where I work without having to worry about anything. I found an apartment that met my needs perfectly, so I decided to go there and sign the lease right away. And just as I was about to move in, I received a phone call from my ex-husband. Hello? What is it that you want?
Hey! What the hell is the meaning of this? Why are your things all gone?
Of course, it's because I left.
What? You left? What the hell do you mean by that? What are you even doing when my mother's in trouble?
Well, that's none of my business anymore.
You've got to be kidding me. Stop making stupid jokes and get your ass back here.
I'm not joking. I'm being serious. Since I already went and filed the divorce papers, we're complete strangers now.
Excuse me?
Oliver sounded really shocked.
No way, you... Those divorce papers which I showed you?
Yes, of course.
You can't just go around doing whatever you want without my permission.
What the... You were the one who said let's get a divorce when you showed me those papers.
But that doesn't mean you could just file those papers.
Oh, are you that kind of person who would ask for divorce as a joke? That's not common sense, you know. Are you even thinking straight? Oh, and the wife is supposed to take care of her mother-in-law? Can you even say that to your friends or to the people around you?
No, that's...
You can't, right? That means you're aware of what you're saying and that you're aware that you're saying something really insane, right? So how can you even say that it's common sense when it's not? I'm just so sick and tired of you. I'm not going to annul the divorce, and you're going to take care of your own mother by yourself.
Oh no. Wait a minute.
My ex-husband was saying something to me, but I completely ignored him and hung up the phone. Then, I blocked his number from my phone. After that, my ex-husband sent me many text messages and even emailed me, asking me to get back together with him. Apparently, my ex-husband had been harassed by his boss at his new job, and every time the boss got angry with him, his boss would say,
"This is just common sense."
So no wonder Oliver was taking his stress out on me. I felt bad that Oliver was going through that. But that doesn't mean he should take it out on his own wife like that. Finding out about this, I was once again disappointed by Oliver. After that, my ex-husband returned to Lily's place and hired a helper with his small amount of income. He is unable to live the luxurious life he had when he was married, and since his job is still not going well, he seems to be under a lot of stress. A little later, Oliver's ex-colleague, who still works for the same major company where he first worked for, came to the hospital as our patient. The ex-colleague had been at my wedding, so I knew him. We got into a conversation about Oliver, who apparently was not good at his job at all. He was arrogant and so proud of his education that he was unable to honestly ask for help or apologize to other people around him. And he was so satisfied with his work that he ended up making terrible mistakes. When I heard this story, I felt as if everything my ex-husband had ever said or done matched up. Because of his stupid pride, he is too arrogant and too confident in himself and tries to make his own company. However, he failed because he could never run a business with his arrogant attitude. And at Oliver's new job, his boss would usually get angry at him because he had been behaving terribly, without any manners and no common sense. And because of that, he would take his stress out on me. Well, he's just a jerk. Why couldn't I see that he was such a jerk like this? I am also just appalled at my judgment in men. I want to learn from my failure this time so that I can finally be with a person whom I can be happy with. For now, I've got a comfortable apartment to live in, and I'm going to enjoy my single life to the fullest. Oliver would be the one who would be in trouble if he gets a divorce from Phoebe, but why would he just threaten her with divorce? And like what Phoebe said, Oliver should be the one to take care of his own mother. It's not something you can just force your wife to do it for you. If Oliver had not been so proud of his education and had clung to his job at the major company, he might have been able to live happily without getting divorced, because he surely had a lot to spend too. At any rate, I am glad that Phoebe was able to get away from a man like him. I hope she will meet a better man in the future. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.